All right. Hi, guys. I'm back. And as of right now, the courtroom has not gone back into session. So while we wait, I'm going to invite another special guest, Scout, my sister, the other daughter. So, Scout, I was going to say, what's one thing you could tell them all, like a story about mom and dad that you don't think they've ever heard before? Can you think of one? Anything. It could be something funny, something silly.
I have to think.
You're blanking?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to keep an eye on this and see. They should be coming back momentarily. So we'll see. Spitfire said, my son said, oh, yay, Scout. They're all saying hi.
Hi, guys. I haven't seen you in a while.
They said, yeah, girls dish the dirt on the parents. What do you think?
I mean,
So I can tell you guys about one of my favorite memories while we wait. So when we were younger, Scout used to go to our cousins on our mom's side in Philly. And my parents, probably for 3 or 4 years, took me to Mountain Jam, which is this concert. Oh, they're back. But as they get set up, it's this music festival in New York. It's like upstate New York. And my parents have an in with all the music people. So I got to go backstage. It was really cool. I got to see David Shaw, who is the lead singer of the Revivalists. And I actually also got to see Tom Petty. Obviously, you guys know my parents are huge music buffs and have, in turn, put that onto me. So I love music too. So I'll pull this up so you guys can see where they're at as well. Let's see. Share screen. All right. So this is where we're at right now. They're just getting back into the courtroom. But yeah, Tom Petty was amazing. We had this floaty that we would sit on, you know, those inflatable things. And my mom and dad coined it the big blue vagina because it was blue and it was, you know, And I was like sitting in that during the Tom Petty concert, and I actually ended up dozing off towards the end of it, which I don't even know how that's possible. But I ended up dozing off towards the end because it was so late. Spitfire said, "I love your shirt, Scout. Green is my favorite color." Also, I didn't see if Lisa was in here, but at the end of last live, she gave me a donation, and I wanted to say thank you, and that was very nice, and I appreciate it a lot. And thank you to all of you for being so welcoming. Since this is my first time.
I know. It's also my sister.
So you guys are saying they're usually late. So we'll see. We'll see how long they take. My parents aren't at the trial. My parents are actually down in Florida. Sadly, they're at a funeral. I'm here with Scout for now, which is also why I am taking over the live for today. But they will be back very soon. And my dad was saying that he also might hop back in later when he's settled in down there. So we'll see.
We should be back Saturday, probably Sunday.
Yeah.
Coming in.
Yeah. Thanks, Christy. That was my first time ever doing a voiceover like that, and I had this little app. It's called I can't remember what it's called exactly, but it's where you can make those little animations. I just had my finger in my phone and I was sketching it out. Thank you so much, Jacqueline, as well. I appreciate you guys a lot and your kindness and generosity. So anyone that wasn't here for the prosecution, they talked a lot about the big gun. We came to the conclusion as a whole that we didn't think it was a super effective closing argument, but we'll see how the defense does.
Cameron's 6 years older than me, 7 years older than me.
Oh yeah, Heavy Metal Rehab
16?
says
6, I mean.
my little sister is 9 years younger than me. We fought like cats and dogs.
We used to, but
I agree, Dixie. I don't think the closing was very strong.
All right, we are back on the record. Our parties, jurors.
Oh, there we go.
Present.
see you guys.
Thanks, Scouty. Love you.
Yes, present jury. Yes. Or is it?
You can leave it open. It's okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The defendant, Rakim Mayers, now has, and he's afforded an opportunity to argue the case, if you will. I'm not going to argue to you, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm going to do is try and discuss reasonable inferences that we believe can be drawn from the evidence. What I'm going to do is something a little different. I'm going to cede the floor to the transcripts in this case, the testimony. So it's not in dispute, what I'm going to say. Ultimately, what will determine the facts and what's going to be important is you. And we can all live with that. You're empowered to do justice here. This is the great system of ours that works. And I'd like to, first and foremost, I'd like to commend and compliment Mr. Chris Loman when I thought it was a fine argument this morning. I don't agree with much of anything he had to say, but I did listen intently. and I hope you'll do the same with me. There's a few things on what he said, though, I do have to just address immediately. And during his argument, because I didn't object, doesn't mean I agreed. I didn't object once. I thought there were some misstatements of facts, so I'll deal with that. But I'm not afraid of anything that was said or anything he had to say. I didn't want to interrupt him. I didn't want to object. I wanted you to hear where the arguments are. Let's see if they give me that same courtesy. He did, during his 2+ hours first summation, because they get 2 summations, you'll hear about that later. He didn't once mention the fact that their only witness in this case committed perjury again and again and again and again in this court. That wasn't mentioned once, not even dealt with. That's an important issue in this case, as you're going to see, because the case does rise and fall in credibility, without question, without question. Detective Flores, their case detective, testified, and we'll put up this testimony in a bit, that without Relly, the 2 videos and the sounds, there's no evidence of a shooting. Could be, could not be. That's certainly not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So Relly's testimony is in fact everything.
I think he just made a great point that there's definitely not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Because the main part of the prosecution's closing was like, hey, we know for a fact that it's a real gun, but you don't know for a fact that ASAP Relly was actually assaulted or that he was actually shot at. So we'll keep going.
And Mr. Preslomik seemed very worried about what I'm going to say about Mr. Efron and his credibility. He understands that that case rises and falls with him. And he spent a lot of time anticipating what I'm going to say about it. One thing he said I would do, but I promise you I won't, is I'm not going to go through every inconsistency of Mr. Efron. We'll be here until Christmas. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go through the major lies he told, the admissions of perjury, the important facts that he told you that turned out to be lies. I'm not going to worry about some inconsistency he told about some statement he made 2 years ago or 3 years ago. We would be here literally for days on end, and I'm not going to do that. Mr. Preslomik said there's no evidence of a profit in this case. Again, we'll get to all this. There's definitely a lot less evidence of a real gun in this case than a profit. The facts scream out that it's impossible for what he had that night to be a real gun. The DA spent much of that argument, 2 hours and 15 minutes or so, repeating himself, repeating the same arguments again and again, sometimes in sarcastic tone, because the evidence isn't there. Look, together, hopefully, these discussions that we're going to have are going to be helpful in trying to arrive at a decision in this case, where you don't compromise, where you don't do violence to your conscience, where you do the right thing. And you are the ones who are empowered to determine what in fact is the right thing. It's you. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever in your life been falsely accused of it? Ever been falsely accused of it? Have you ever had to sit there and take it, watch proceedings or watch how it played out and wait, knowing that you're innocent, knowing that you didn't do it? All you can do during such a process is maintain your dignity. Isn't that right? All you can do is maintain your dignity. Knowing that you're innocent, but maintaining your dignity and remembering always that you're left in a crisis is your conduct during it. That's another reason why I am so proud to represent Rocky Kennedy. Rocky. He's a man who's maintained his innocence from day one, 3.5+ years ago, who's conducted himself with dignity throughout these proceedings from day one. I started off telling you about this case was all about my first line out of the bat in the opening statement. It seems like a year and a half ago. was that this case was about Relly's jealousy, lies, and greed. I said that you'd see the kind of person he was in this courtroom, an angry pathological liar. That he, and he alone, is the source of all the evidence that they are relying on. And this case would rise and fall on his credibility. Take him out of the picture, there is no case. And as I promised, Relly showed you who he truly was when it came time for cross-examination. He's a man who told you without hesitation, I can tell people whatever I want. He said that, actually, to you. I was right out of the box, the first one that fine, please.
You want the audio-visual version, please? Alex, oh, Mark, please. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna,
I'm just trying to fix the audio on this clip.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We have an audio-visual person before platform. Go ahead.
But,
Sure.
okay, what you would have heard, what you may see one day, after Mark comes up and saves us once again, is him literally saying to you, I can tell people whatever I want. He's their witness, who you're being asked to believe beyond a reasonable doubt. I can tell people whatever I want. He's a man who literally gave 4 different answers to one question. 4 answers, 1 question. He said, yes, no, I don't recall, I don't know, in 1 question. That was the first for me. I've been doing this for a bit. That was the first one. 4 answers, 1 question. Yes, no, I don't recall. I don't know. He's a man who committed perjury before your eyes over and over again. A man who snapped, cursed, threw a water bottle. Cursed in this courtroom. Threw a water bottle out of anger while testifying in the light of court with the judge, with the jury, with these terrific sheriff's deputies and bailiffs. That's what you had to hear. Imagine what he's capable of in the dark of night. He doesn't think things watching. The evidence in this case has shown you that this case indeed rises on his credibility or falls on his credibility, and it is fallen hard. Before we start, I do want to thank you all. It's right to thank you all for your commitment and sacrifice in this case. It's not been an easy case. It's been a long, long case. It's been odd that not one of you ever been late. Another first for me. Been doing this for a while, both as a prosecutor and defense attorney. Not once have we been waiting for a juror. So your commitment and your sacrifice is extraordinary, especially in a 4-week trial. So we both sides thank you for that. I know that. But this is what this is about. This is why we love what we do. That's why I love what I do. It's an opportunity to go before people who are from the community, who are the conscience of the community, because you are the conscience of this community. And when I say community, I mean you represent the community of Los Angeles. Every part of the community, parts that are represented here, and parts that aren't represented here, Compton, Englewood, you represent all parts of this community. You set the standard, tell us what's right and what's wrong with your work. Use your common sense to do that. And ladies and gentlemen, your work goes far beyond these court orders. The evidence is there. It's not even close. Again, appreciate Mr. Resloman's argument, but we're going to dissect the evidence now. Apart from Relly's testimony, the prosecution, just his testimony, I'm talking about his physical evidence.
How's he doing, Kim?
The prosecution's evidence consists of videos.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple of technical difficulties. He was gonna show a little piece of ASAP Rocky, the victim, his testimony.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get to see that. It got cut off, but good start. He started off by just talking about ASAP Rocky and how he's essentially a good guy. So he just started really getting into the
meat of it.
yeah.
You've got the blue room door open behind you there, Chief.
Oh,
Wow. Just wow.
I'll go close it while we keep watching.
Shell casings and knuckle scrapes. And I don't know what else to call them but knuckle scrapes. I know they said always going to call them knuckle scrapes. What am I going to call them? Bullet wounds? I mean, they're knuckle scrapes. Videos don't prove that case, they prove the opposite. Relly was the aggressor in both videos, and we'll show you those, and we'll show you them slowly. The shell casing is not,
Tactina,
sir.
Mark says it's set up right, but he needs to.
Yeah, I'll stop for a second. You want to try it? Let's try it. Thanks.
We've come to learn that Mark is the tech guy that fixes the TV that is supposed to be playing this witness testimony.
Mark or Wally? Oh, Wally's the social media guy.
Mark, as in the specific tech guy in this courtroom that is about to currently fix this TV so we can watch the testimony.
Oh, we would refer to him as Tiny Desk Guy. He's the tech guy that sits behind the lawyers and makes all the shit work.
Oh, yeah, him.
Go ahead. You want to leave back here or over here? Yeah, right.
Now, has Rocky been as stylish as YSL?
Pretty stylish.
I mean, he looks great.
Yeah.
YSL was really pimping his wares, though. Like, he'd wear.
I mean, did you see that one trench coat outfit? That was
You liked that, didn't you?
a pretty good one.
Would you like to see your dad wearing that outfit? You think I could pull it off?
Sure.
I bet you I could pull it off.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, anyway, he was
Like
one
they
of the
figured
videos.
it out.
Play this, you know.
Yeah, we're just kidding. Can you sit over here? No.
I don't know. Since so long, I tell people what about this. I don't get it, but no. Yes, no, I don't know. I don't know. Since so long, I tell people what about it.
I think we discussed it, I don't have to go back to it, but that was, you could take that down, please. Anyway, the shell casings and the knuckle scrapes mean absolutely nothing without believing Relly's story about them. They mean nothing without believing his story in whole about them. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how the evidence or lack of evidence shaped up in this case. Before we do, I want to make clear what Rocky is charged with. He's
Pause
charged
it,
with 2 counts
Cam.
of assault with a semi-automatic weapon.
So my biggest issue with this case is that it doesn't appear that the state put anybody on to explain the injuries. I mean, if you don't have injuries that could have been caused by, like, how are you getting knuckle scrapes from a bullet?
Yeah.
I mean, a graze is a graze. You know, we know that there's old Murdoch got grazed in the head by a bullet. You know, I mean, it takes a pretty good chunk of your skin with it. And I think it's going to have, you know, the shape of the round as it goes through the bullet. You know, so I just don't understand how the state is even able to establish that those injuries that he's claiming were actually caused by a projectile. Like, how are they doing that? I don't get it. I didn't hear anything about it in the closing.
Neither did I.
So I don't, you know,
Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest problems.
it's a pretty big
It really,
problem.
yeah, it really makes no sense.
Yeah.
I feel like the reason they probably didn't have a professional come on and testify of that was probably because I don't think that that injury really could have came from a bullet.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times what you'll find as an attorney is that if you've got an injury that you're either trying to prove or disprove was as a result of somebody's actions, and if you're having a really, really hard time finding an expert, it's a problem. And it speaks volumes because the state has unlimited resources in terms of who they can go to. They've got MEs, which are typically dealing with deaths, but they certainly have the coffers to be able to go and find an expert to say, oh yeah, that injury is consistent within a reasonable degree of medical certainty to have been caused by a projectile. So I mean, without that, I don't know how they have a case. I don't give a shit. Like, I mean, that would lean towards the gun was fake.
Right.
If they're saying they found shell casings. I mean, if he's not injured, because what is the exact charge?
It's assault with a deadly weapon.
I mean, they still might be able to pull that off even if he's not actually injured. All right, you can fire it up.
One for the altercation by the parking garage on Argyle Avenue, the other for the altercation is Del Mar, that fuzzy video that you received. The DA said you only have to decide if it's proper or not. That's it. That's all you have to decide. Person. Nothing else is in dispute. That is not true. That's not true. And the judge just told you this just the other day. He said, as a matter of fact, that's not what you just have to decide. It completely ignores the self-defense and defense of others law that the judge instructed you on.
So Jacqueline has watched this whole case from the start, and she says that the prosecutor himself said they may or may not have been from the shooting. So there you go.
Yeah.
But they see what they want to see. They say what they want to say. They hide from you what they don't want you to see. Which is why they cut off the end of the video on Vista Del Mar. I'm not going to show you what they cut off. They cut off after Rocky's gone. After 12 is already running away, they cut off the part where Quelly goes back and gets Ills one more time.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's only
Good
using
one.
one shield.
A good face punch noise.
We'll show you. The judge will instruct you, each of those charges requires the prosecution to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, another term I didn't hear much, 2 hours plus summation is the result. Beyond a reasonable doubt that Rocky possessed a real operable semi-automatic firearm and that Rocky did not act in self-defense or defense of another. Beyond a reasonable doubt. And the evidence just isn't there. It's not even close in this case, guys. It's not even close. I'm here to gain respect for the undeniable fact that even now, as we sit here, Rakim Mayers is presumed innocent. He's presumed innocent as we sit here now. I'm here to point out the numerous reasonable doubts that lurk in the evidence of this case. Because folks,
That tiny desk guy back there. That tiny desk guy back there.
Yeah, that's Tiny Desk Guy.
There are hundreds of reasonable doubts.
He really let the team down because he still couldn't use the clip.
And the case is over.
Wow.
We have this idea of a reasonable doubt. It's not what we do in our daily lives on the street when we talk to our friends or
Has your sister busted in and given you grief?
friends been treated.
Well, when they were getting back into session, I let her come on for a little.
Oh, everybody got to see Scoutster? That's good.
I told a little story about Mountain Jam.
She's got a new little boyfriend who I think is taking up a lot of her time on the phone. So I think he'll have a respite.
Yeah, I called her name 20 times before she heard me. So must have been really locked in on that.
Yeah.
But it's something that's really important in this setting, the courtroom, because it seems as a country that it has served us very, very well. people who founded this country were no strangers to controversy, and certainly no strangers to social danger, have created some of it themselves even.
Wait, who is
Anything
in?
that
Are you talking about Kiss the
Best way to
band?
guarantee the liberty of citizens was to make
You're
sure
talking
that
about
the
Steven
government
Van Zandt?
brought
He's
charges
in Bruce
against one of its
Springsteen's band.
citizens. Had to prove
Brian.
And
That's what you're
further,
talking
a
about.
doubt based on reason, there was a reasonable doubt, there had to be an acquittal. Had to be. What a reasonable doubt isn't, the judge says to you in the beginning, like, again, 4 weeks ago, whenever that was, what a reasonable doubt isn't, it isn't, he may have committed the crime, it isn't, he probably committed the crime, it is, I'm almost certain he committed the crime. That doesn't carry it. I have no reason to doubt he committed the crime. What was proven beyond a reasonable doubt in this case? Terrell Efron is a compulsive liar and perjurer. That was proven beyond reasonable doubt. He lies without remorse. Folks, he even bragged to you about committing perjury. He literally did, and you're going to see it. As long as Mark is close by, you're going to see him literally bragging about committing perjury. You know, this reasonable doubt, proof beyond a reasonable doubt, you're going to hear me talk about it again. But the prosecution told you just now, Mr. Solomon said, that the defense story is impossible. They have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. You can't just say it.
Tell me you were side stage for Portugal.
They have not met their burden here, not even close, because they can't. It's a very heavy burden, and they've not come close. That's why they resort to making excuses, playing games, relying on possibilities, which is really funny, because you were all here for jury selection, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't here for jury selection. See how smart I am? You were all here when Mr. Lewin in jury selection said, "We'll never ask you to look at what's possible in this case." Remember that was like a closing remark in jury selection? "We'll never ask you to look at what's possible." He said that. Yet, as we walk through the evidence together, you'll see all the possibilities they presented. Starting with that first witness out of the gate. Right at the jury selection. Boom! First witness, Zizzo, right out of the gate. "Is it possible you missed the shell casings?" He never say anything about the word possible. You won't be asked what's possible in this case. First witness out of the box, Officer Zizzo, was asked, "Is it possible you missed the shell casings?" Possible is not proof beyond reasonable doubt. Nor are excuses. Why were there no fingerprints on those shell casings that really claimed to have found that night? Remember what Dick Floor said about that? Excuses. Well, you know, if it rained, if there was water, if there was cars, if there was wind. We'll go past that. We'll review the evidence together, and you'll see that their excuses for not having proof really start stacking up. And in face of only possibilities and excuses, they resorted to playing games in an effort to win at all costs. At all costs. And it's not about justice. It's about winning. Plain and simple. It shouldn't be. And they play games in this case that should offend you. I'm not just saying it. I'm going to keep you through.
Wait, Scout peeked in and didn't say hi, Daddy? What? Outrageous.
She waved at you.
Oh,
Trying to.
I didn't see that.
She hit the little scout wave.
Remember something I said to you in the opening? I said we're here to make promises both sides, but not like politicians' promises. You know, the thing where we promise you the moon, you vote based on our promises, and you seem to fulfill them. And here, we make promises in that opening statement. You get to see if we fulfill them, then you vote. Let's see what they promised compared to what we promised. They told you Rocky was the aggressor. His text messages showed he was the aggressor. These text messages, we'll get to that. They told you that Rocky shot Relly with a real gun. We told you that Relly was manufacturing the story, deleting and destroying evidence. He was trying to extort Rocky, which came through. that Relly was a real aggressor, Rocky used the prop gun to defend himself. There are two hurdles that they have to overcome to get a conviction in this case. Two hurdles. We cannot overcome them. One is that an object in Rocky's hand on November 6, 2021 was not a prop gun. He hunted himself down. Second is that Rocky did not act in self-defense. Hold your bills. Judge instructed him if the prosecution failed to prove the object in Rocky's hand was not a prop gun beyond a reasonable doubt, the case is over. It's over. Beyond a reasonable doubt. You can stop there. It's over. Judge also told me that regardless of what Rocky had in his hand, if you find that he acted in self-defense or in defense of 12-year-old ills, he's also not guilty. That's the law. It's not our argument. They bear the heavy, heavy burden of disproving self-defense or defense of another beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's a burden that they cannot carry in this case, not even close. Relly threatened Rocky, Relly threatened Schwelby, Relly repeatedly punched Ills and ragdolled Ills, and we'll show you that again on the video. Slowly. You had it narrated to you, but you can see it on the video. Before we do that and talk about it, let's discuss why they can't overcome that first hurdle. First, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the object in Rocky's hand was real, it was not a firearm, because they absolutely cannot overcome that. There is incontrovertible evidence and testimony in this case, and other evidence that shows you the object that Rocky was possessing was a prop. Unimpeached. Not a real firearm. And they asked why. First of all, remember, there's no evidence in the record that Rocky was licensed to carry in 2021. It wasn't. But Schwelby and Lou told you it wasn't real gun. Two people came here, took an oath, and told you it was not a real gun. Lou Lemon told you where it came from, that DMB music video he identified with Rocky and Rihanna from July of 2021, right before. He told you he put a clip drawer on it, essentially a belt clip, put the piece onto a belt, make it easy to carry, and he extended the magazine with a clear magazine to make it look more intimidating because the Glock he had prop gun Glock 26 sort of fits in a pocket, it's really small. So this was meant as a deterrent. Mr. Sloman told you that Lou Lemon couldn't name the security guy who advised Rocky to carry prop gun. He was never asked. And he didn't say security guy, he said Rocky's security team. Testimony you, by the way, always have the testimony read back to you at any point. If there's any dispute, I know you guys are crazy things, but if there's any dispute, you can always say, can we have that part read back, the testimony where Mr. Lemon talked about the security who advised or whatever, hypothetically. So he never was asked. He didn't say a security guy. He said security team, and he just said he concurred. He wasn't pretending to be a security advisor that they mocked. They didn't ask him that, yet they just tried to argue that to you. Mr. Lemon also told you that the prop gun didn't serve its intended purpose on November 6th, obviously, 2021. And Rocky gave it back to him, and he gave it back to this co-director from the DMV video when he went to New York next. He remembers, December, January, whatever. By the way, we didn't bring up a picture of the DMV video. They're the ones with the burden of proof here, folks. They have the burden. The DMV videos were all to see out there. They could have, if they wanted to, subpoenaed it. They could have burned it in, put it on YouTube. They didn't do it. They didn't want you to see that video. Lou Lemon told you he asked the co-director, this guy Haji, where the prop gun went. He did call him back after 5 months later when Rocky was eventually charged and then sued. And Haji, this prop gun guy, the director, co-director, said he didn't know that he explained he had a studio, big studio in common with other directors of these videos and films and whatnot. And he said it was common space that had cameras, lighting equipment, prop equipment, and everything else that was borrowed and exchanged and whatnot between a bunch of people. That's uncontroverted testimony. And it was gone. The guy Haji couldn't find it. Don't think Lou didn't try. He did. The guy Haji said it was gone. And you heard the DA spoke. They told you. They told Lou. They spoke to Haji. They reported it. They told him. And you know, if Haji said anything inconsistent with what Lou said, you're going to hear that thing.
Your Honor, we found out about it that day. It's improper.
There are no speaking objections. There are no speaking objections. I told you that. You will have an opportunity
Wow.
for your rebuttal argument.
Objection, improper argument.
Overruled.
That was
That was awesome.
yeah.
You never see a state's attorney get shut down like that.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Anyway,
He gave
This
me
guy
a
doesn't- He doesn't even say objection. He just starts talking.
I know.
they knew.
Third
about
time I've
the
heard him do it.
prosecution
This
Before the
guy.
trial started.
He's trying to get his moment. That's what we've been saying.
They knew before
That's
the
a
trial
different
started.
guy.
He said that the prop gun
Who, that
came
state's
from a
attorney?
music video.
Yeah, there's two of them. There's Lewin's the other one. He's going to do the rebuttal closing.
Houses, music video, whatever else. They could have done it too. But they didn't say, oh, we didn't do it. Again, you had absolutely no burden to do anything. We did provide live witness testimony. We cross-examined. It wasn't a surprise to them. They didn't want it to be, which they knew what they were going to find. That's why you didn't hear anything.
That's improper argument. Overruled.
Relly's words and actions on November 6, 2021 show you it wasn't the real gun. His words and actions show you. All the prosecution's objective evidence in this case, everything that doesn't come from Relly shows you this was not a real gun. Common sense also shows you it was not a real gun. On that last point, the prosecution would have you believe that Rocky, you saw that video, shot a real gun at his friend Ills, who was right there. I mean, Ills was right there. According to them, he shot the gun, a real gun, at his friend Ills. That makes no sense. You saw the video. The second shot, Ills was right there. There's no way, even if that was a real gun, that Ills wasn't going to hit. That was real. There was no way. DA then said, well, you know, why? Why would he get rid of the prop gun? He said, we haven't explained that. I think we did. I think Lou Levin explained that pretty well, pretty clearly. Remember, they didn't know 5 months later the police would come. They weren't thinking, oh, we better save this in case, I don't know, next year at some point, I get arrested. That was the furthest thing from Rocky's mind. They did know that it did not serve its intended purpose. They did know that. So that was the end of that. Rocky got rid of that prop gun that didn't work and instead beefed up his security.
So one thing me and Mom were talking about was it was kind of suspicious that he did get rid of the prop gun, but now coming to realize that he got rid of the prop gun a year before even being arrested, or a year before his trial. I don't know which, but that is a different story because, I mean, how long is he really supposed to keep it? The full 3 years from then to now?
Sure. So now he had to have security all the time instead of just going to events, even when it was his friends on the street. Of course, he didn't know the police were going to be involved 5 months later. As for 12 and Lou Levin, you heard from each of them. And before we get into what they said, let's talk about the process. What's supposed to be about the search for the truth. That's what it's meant to be. It's not supposed to be about just trying to win. That's what it's not supposed to be about. Especially when you have the power of law enforcement behind you. You know, it's the prosecutor's job to make sure innocent people go free also. And it makes sense that all the witnesses come to your attention. All the witnesses come to your attention, as we had to do in this case. You can see that responsible citizens came in here as witnesses, were often treated roughly and ridiculed, attacked by Mr. Lewin, an obsession to win, attacked. You don't treat witnesses who came in here, don't get paid to tell the truth, have no financial motive, you don't treat them like that, just purely and simply because they're not saying what you want them to say in your version of what the truth might be. You don't do that. Mark Twain, great author, once said, "To a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail." That came to life. Prosecution embraced the relevant in this case, though. Embraced them. Didn't even once mention to you all, okay, he perjured himself before you guys many times. Whole thing's fake, everyone's fake. He lied to your faces. That wasn't even mentioned this morning. They defended him despite his despicable acts and his despicable conduct. And with our witnesses,
I'm interested to see some more of ASAP Relly's testimony because I haven't seen all of it. So I want to see what he uses from that. And if you guys think that it was this crazy amount of perjury. I haven't seen it all, so I bet Jacqueline will know. But we'll see.
Mr. Lewin catered to them like they were serial killers. And I mean 12E and Lou. They were the polar opposites of Relly in every way. How they conducted themselves, how they answered questions. They weren't argumentative. They weren't disrespectful. They were compliant and they were responsive to both sides. To both sides. Compare those human beings to what you saw the week before that. They weren't belligerent. They didn't throw water bottles. They didn't curse. I mean, Relly, who couldn't answer any question straight, admitted to lying. And when he didn't admit to lying, got impeached with prior inconsistent statements. I'm not going to go through them all. You know, when you know the truth and when you tell the truth, you don't have to rehearse the truth. You don't have to get your memory refreshed. You don't have to be reminded of the truth when you know the truth and tell the truth. You don't have to be coached on the truth by the prosecutors. You don't have to have someone telling you how to answer questions like Relly was told in this case. You always get the truth right when you tell the truth. All witnesses answered every question without incident, without problem. They were consistent. They didn't get tripped up once. There was not one inconsistency. So the response to that is to be coached very well. I mean, they're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, I guess. Because if they had been caught up and tripped up and been inconsistent, and their truth was inconsistent, well then they're liars. Or they weren't consistent. But because they were so consistent and they didn't get impeached, they couldn't lay low on them. Oh, they must have been coached. They were not coached, they were consistent because they were telling the truth. You saw that in here. They both told you, Luke and 12, both told you previously carried on for that 6-month period. Being the victim of acts of violence. And Rocky had it on November 6, 2021. And now Rocky's friends knew he had friends. They didn't announce it to the world. Of course, that would be stupid to say, you know, for a social media post out, carry a prop gun. In case you want to attack me, it's really only prop gun. No, who said, and 12, he said, listen, we need a group of friends. The prosecution peppered 12 with questions about a summary of what he told us, the lawyers. As if that summary contained his prior sworn testimony or prior recorded statements, but it didn't. That's why the judge said it was irrelevant to what 12 we saw in that document.
That's the improper argument.
That's why the judge said it's irrelevant to what 12 we saw in that summary document.
That is the improper argument.
Instead, the summary was simply something that lawyers have to provide as procedural discovery in this case. Look, when I hear this, they're gonna try and pretend like we just came up with this prop in defense. Rocky has been saying that since day one. Here's the testimony of Detective Flores on this issue. Detective Flores was asked, was this something, when he was asked, because he was asked on direct about when did he first find out about prop in defense? And he said, there were no deposition in criminal cases with the question before. Then I said, all right. So basically, what you were being asked when we're talking about that, you just found out about this prop. What you're being asked are questions related to discovery disclosure in a criminal case, correct? And he said, yes. So Detective Flores was very honest, and I think he tried to do a good job here. Told you what that was about. See, if you just listen to the direct in this case, it would make it sound like only 2 weeks ago, oh, there was a prop claim. It's been since day one for Rocky. Discovery in a criminal case is what he was being asked about. I mean, you also heard that it was revealed before jury selection, I think, before jury selection, no, sorry, the day before opening statements, that we got a ballistics report from them that was done over a year before. The day before opening statement, yeah, you guys were out. Okay. Go crying and screaming.
Hey,
they did it.
yeah, pause it a sec.
We got it.
All right, I'm gonna go. My aunt just got here, so I love you. You're crushing it, which I knew you would. You got this.
Yeah, love you too.
I love you too. All right, baby. Bye, bye, y'all. Love you guys.
Guys, we're back in 2025. Detective Zizzo, Sergeant Zizzo, now former police officer Zizzo, said on the witness stand, we may have missed it. We didn't search the whole street. I said, really? Looking at his report, like, when did you say that for the first time? He said, today, this morning, he told him that for the first time. Okay. I say, oh, they just came up with it. This is real life. This is a trial. This is what happens. Sometimes witnesses remember things later, sometimes they don't. But I'm not accusing anyone of perjuring themselves like police officer Zizzo, because he just remembered that today, 5 years later. You know? I mean, sort of odd. 5 years after that, he remembers they may have missed it. That's okay. Look, more importantly, as Kobe told you, what he testified to here in this courtroom is what he told us previously and what he saw that night. Period. He was consistent, he was credible, unlike Relly, who actually contradicted his own recorded statements, and unlike Relly, who actually contradicted his prior sworn testimony over and over again. He committed perjury, Bradshaw committed perjury. And the fact that the prosecution tried to make you believe that a summary was Twelby's actual statement when it wasn't.
It seems like we've all kind of come to the conclusion that there's definitely more evidence that this whole thing between Relly and the cops was a facade rather than he was actually telling the truth. But they're about to play more of his testimony, so.
It's a game. It's another example of a game. Here's another one. The prosecution asked Twelby how he knew it was a prop gun if he never spoke to Rocky about it. That was completely misstating what Twelby said on direct testimony. Completely. Twelby didn't say he never spoke to Rocky about it. He said the opposite. He said they did speak about it prior to November 6, 2021, in September of 2021 in Harlem at that governor's ball thing. And after he first saw it at the DMV video, he said they spoke about it. But he was ripped apart. Dude, never spoke to Rocky about that, you said. He didn't say that. What other games they play with 12B? You heard this one. You heard Detective Flores tell you that before 2 weeks ago, neither he nor any member of law enforcement ever tried to reach out to 12. 2025. This event happened in 2021. Before 2 weeks ago, before January of 2025, neither he, the lead detective in this case, or any member of law enforcement tried to reach out to 12. They knew who he was, obviously. But that still didn't prevent Mr. Lewin from asking 12 if before those last 2 weeks, didn't you get a message from us? Didn't you get a message from us? No, Mr. Lewin, we didn't get a message. Detective Flores already cleared that up pretty clearly. He didn't get a message from you. They knew he didn't contact 12. They knew he didn't try to contact 12 until 2 weeks ago. But he asked him that question. Why give a false impression? That somehow 12 ignored a message? That somehow 12 ignored a message? Oh, I'm sorry.
Disparaging counsel. Yeah, there cannot be any disparaging personal attacks.
So it's not personal. It's a question was asked.
There are,
Okay,
do not debate with me.
Sorry.
About a ruling.
Yep.
Objections sustained.
okay. Well, you heard the testimony. You saw what happened. You figured out what it was all about. But 12 was asked, didn't you get a message from us in the past? When Detective Flores said, no, no one left me a
That's
message.
not
No one
wrong.
tried to reach you. So I don't want to disparage anyone, but you just got to ask yourself, why was that question asked? If it didn't happen. Look, you know, like I said, the games, they're a constant theme in this trial. Here's another one. Prosecution asked 12B about photos taken in Rocky's bedroom which showed Rocky's registered firearms and not a prop gun there. Those photos were taken during a search of Rocky's residence in April of 2022. 5 months after the incident on Lisa Delmar in November 2020. 5 months later. So the fact that there was no prop gun there means absolutely nothing. You heard what happened to the prop gun way before that. And here's this also, think about this. And why was there no prop gun in the house? You heard why Rocky, for that 5-6 month period, carried the prop gun on advice of security. Because he'd been subject to episodes of violence, like a stalker, his face was slashed, and home invasions, okay? But he'd been subject to violence on the street, he didn't have a carry. So when he wasn't with security, he had this thing to hopefully deter people. At home, he had licensed firearms. Now, because a prop is meant to deter would-be attackers, plus in his bedroom, there aren't would-be attackers anymore. They're in fact attackers. And a prop gun would be useless there, obviously. Also with the registered guns found in Rocky's house, I guess that the Flores, if they were legally registered to Rocky, and they objected. They objected to that question.
That's an improper argument.
Sustained.
Well, those in fact were registered to Rocky, legal. Others were registered to Lou, legal. Everything in that house was legal and given back to Lou Levin, who was there at the time of the search. They mocked Lou like he must have made that up. Not just Lou's magazine, the guns were legal too. They were, 2 of them were, one of them was Lou's, and 2 was Rocky's. They were both legal and registered. Detective Flores made it clear that the weapons found in Rocky's home were legal. So there should have been no dispute over that at all. Search of the truth is what this should be about. I'm trying to win the battle.
So I see some of you guys talking about this. I don't know how much it's really helping that he's bringing up the fact that he did have legally owned firearms, just because the whole point of this is to prove that it was a prop gun. So if this had already been proved that he did in fact have guns and that they were legal, I don't know what bringing that up is gonna, I mean, that's putting in the jury's mind, hey, I mean, he did have real guns, so who's to say this one was a prop? You know?
Some game certainly can understand it. Some game. In fact, prosecution did absolutely nothing, gentlemen, to impeach the testimony of Rolling. Nothing. Yeah, he got loud and yelled at them a little. But saying liar, liar, pants on fire is not impeachment. He didn't move them off their story once. They were consistent. They stayed exactly consistent with their story the entire time, because the truth is easy to remember. The truth is easy to tell. They were not impeached, not once. The fact of the matter is, by the way, it wasn't lack of trying.
I can see that.
We
That he's
know
bringing up the
they
proof
did
that he
at one point,
hasn't been in any
12
or no
years.
felonies.
A dialect from his upbringing, from the streets where he's from. And he said this thing, and I personally, he's one of the nicest guys I've ever seen. He said this thing where he's like, "You feel me? You feel me?" That was just a matter of speaking. But Mr. Lewin had to take that. Say, "No, I don't feel you. I don't really mean that to you. I can't feel you."
Proper argument.
No.
Overruled.
No need to mock a witness who came in here, who was compliant and respectful. No, they were grilled both 12 weeks, and they were grilled about many, many things, including the financial motives of being here. And again, they don't contradict their testimony. I mean, Mr. Breslonik this morning spent a lot of time in their testimony, not about their misstatements or their inconsistencies or contradictions or their impeachments, but just repeated their testimony, but in a sarcastic voice. As if that makes it not true. That's not true. That's definitely not true beyond reasonable doubt. So anyway, the financial motive that they were both crushed on in their cross-examinations, 12 being removed, 12 said zero for him. For Rocky, nothing. He does his own career, actually, pretty well. Lou said he makes a portion of his salary for Rocky, and he does. He loves Rocky. They both love Rocky. So no one's trying to pretend they're peers.
So Kraken brought this up, but I completely agree. When he came out here, the defense attorney, he came out and specifically said, the reason I didn't object during the prosecution's closing argument was so in hopes that they wouldn't, object and interrupt a ton during his, but they did not take that to heart.
Unbiased, they love it. But it's an interesting thing, though. They were so concerned about both of their financial motives. Not once did the prosecution take issue with the fact that their own witness, Relly, was here because of his financial motivation, and only his financial motivation. A $30 million financial motivation. But they're asking Lou Levin, don't you get 20% of your salary from him? Or that poor IT guy who had to fly from Paris. You made $20,000 last year from him, huh? I mean, that guy's looking $30 million for that. Knuckle scrapes. By the way, if Relly got his $30 million that he wanted, that he said repeatedly, they'd have no witness in his case, as you now know. Because he'd be on island somewhere relaxing while they were searching for him. Instead, Relly wants to use law enforcement as a money collector. Because he didn't care about what police heard him say.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but was he referring to the AI generated video of Rocky supposedly asking or offering a bribe to the victim, because I thought that that's what he was mentioning with the $30 million, but I might be wrong.
Did that many times. And if he got his money, these guys go pound sand. They'll notify him he's going to be on an island. I told you how that process works. I didn't hear that thing. But talk about extraordinary bias that they just want you to ignore. They don't even mention that. It can't be, and it shouldn't be. But it's why we're here in this courtroom. It's why we're all here. What else should be ignored? Despite all the prosecution's efforts, despite the blistering questions posed to them, both Twelve and Lululemon established these incontrovertible facts. They're not.
Thank you, Jack.
They're not
I didn't know.
contested. That Rocky was known to carry a property by his friends. They didn't controvert that at all. The object in his hands on the register.
So he was referring to the civil suit, as Jacqueline just informed me.
2021 was a problem. Relly's own actions on November 6, 2021 confirmed that. 12 testified during the first altercation. Relly said something to the effect of, shoot that big ass gun, which explains his later conduct, by the way. Now, Relly said he didn't say that. So now you have to see who's more credible, more trustworthy, Relly or Relly. That's what you have, the words of the two of them in that regard, in that one thing. And consistent with his knowledge that it was a fake gun, look what he did after the first altercation, which is impossible to get around for them. The first altercation by the parking garage, where he's claims he's pulled a gun, is pulled on a real gun that he doesn't know is a fake gun. He continues to follow the guy who pulls a real gun and according to him, tries to kill him. So think about that for a second. When you talk about a reasonable doubt or a doubt based on it, think about that. That was so odd. I mean, he said, yeah, the guy pulled out a gun on me. I thought it was a real gun. And he threatened to kill me. So after he walked away, I decided to follow him. I don't follow him, berate him as I'm following him. Almost begging him to shoot me. Well, let's see, Detective Flores, but anyway, Detective Flores told me what he thought about that. He testified. He said, that would be an odd thing for Relly to do. His testimony from his trial. Mr. Efron, on December 2021, you asked him why he continued to follow Mr. Mayers if he knew he had a gun, right? The answer yes, Detective Flores. Question, because according to you, you told him that would seem to be an odd thing to do, right? Or odd thing to do, I didn't say, right? And Detective Flores said yes. Of course, it's an odd thing to do if you know it's a real gun. Not so much an odd thing to do if it's a fake gun or a real gun. And of course, when Relly was questioned about why he would do that, about being an odd thing to do, his answer was, when Flores questioned about it, Relly said, I don't know. That was his answer to Detective Flores early on when he questioned him. When you asked Mr. Efron why did he continue to follow Mr. Mayers after seeing the gun, what he said was, he didn't know why. So, Detective Flores, and he said correct. Detective Flores questioned him about it, and the best Relly could
I
do.
feel like his constant drinking water is
Exactly.
making me thirsty.
I don't know why I thought it was a gun. Obviously, I don't know was all Relly could say because he knew he couldn't tell the truth. That was a problem. He knew that. That alone is reasonable doubt. That is a reasonable doubt. Whew. That's it. Just name one. Just one.
That's an improper statement of the law.
In fact, the lack of evidence further shows that this was a prop. And you heard that the police found absolutely no evidence of a shooting at the scene whatsoever. Officer Zissou told you that. that there was no sign of a shooting, there was no blood, no bullet holes, no shell casings, no physical evidence at all. That's from the testimony at this trial in front of you from Officer Zisby. Just recap. There's no blood, no bullet holes, no shell casings, no physical evidence of a shooting was recovered at all. No, sir. So that was the guy who was there within 15 minutes. When you heard from the body cam footage from one of the other responding officers, turned out to be Sergeant John Cook, Zizzo said. Sergeant Cook said, there's going to be no evidence for now. We have no victims, no hits, no evidence. That's the sergeant body cam footage. That's Officer Zizzo's testimony. Also captured on Sergeant Cook's body cam footage is him saying, as of now, or no victims as of now, unless it pops up in the hospital, it's probably just a warning shot. That's testimony from you all in this trial. Again, so no victims as of now, unless it pops up in the hospital, it's probably just a warning shot, right? That's what he said. Sergeant Zizzo said to us. Well, Sergeant Cook was close. It was actually 2 warning shots from the property. Ladies and gentlemen, the prosecution can prove otherwise beyond a reasonable doubt. They cannot. Beyond a reasonable doubt. Not without relic being totally believable. Not without relic being totally believable. And he is not worth it. And he's spent much time working on that. That's why, in addition to asking him about November 6th, 2021, which we spent some time doing, we spent so much time questioning him about his credibility. And I'm sorry he was on the witness stand for 5 days. The reason he was on the witness stand for 5 days, I was only 2 total days with him. But the reason
I mean, thinking like a juror, are you going to be more inclined to thoroughly listen to the defense attorney who's actually has a coherent statement, or the prosecution who was kind of all over the place and ended his closing argument with a story about a cartoonish villain? I'm a little more compelled to believe the defense right now.
he was here that long, so he didn't answer questions. Like, questions had to be asked on cross anyway. 3, 4 times, the judge had to get involved. That's why he was here so long. But because without him, when he questioned his credibility, it's not because I was having fun speaking to him. I wasn't. But when you question his credibility, it's because his credibility is at issue. Because without him and his credible testimony, the prosecution has 0 evidence of a shooting. They even had to prove, they have 0 evidence to prove that it was an operable gun, let alone a shooting. Consider that. What's the prosecution's evidence that the object in Rocky's hand on November 6, 2021 was not Brockman? What's their evidence? Relic shell casings?
I mean, we would hope that the jury is able to, you know, fully listen. But I mean, there's been a lot thrown at them and they are just human. But I mean, even considering that, I feel like they're doing their best and he's telling a pretty good story right now. Jacqueline also said people tend to favor the state, which I agree with. I think it takes a lot to come to a not guilty verdict rather than a guilty one. We saw that with Richard Allen.
Okay, those. Reli's knuckle scrapes. And the videos from parking garage at 1616 Vista Del Mar and 6200 Hollywood Boulevard. But remember what Detective Flores said about those videos. First, he said, there's no evidence from 1616 Vista Del Mar of an actual gun being discharged. I asked him that question, and he said, correct. From that view by itself, no. Well, that's the only view we have of 1616 pieces of Omar, that video, they're all there and so forth. Then, second, I said the only time you could see a gun in any video was the parking garage video. And in that one, you can't tell if it's operable, whether it's an operable gun, a real gun or not, right, Detective Flores? And he was honest. You first cited the fact the gun was displayed, right? Which you already told this jury that the gun that was displayed, the only time you could see a gun in any video was the parking garage video, correct? You already told this jury, by that video, you can't tell
We
if
were
it's
talking
operable,
about
right?
how we got
Correct.
Sopranos vibes when he first.
So if he can't tell it's operable, how are you supposed to do it? If Flores can't tell you it's operable, how are you supposed to tell it's operable? I believe Barry's story. All of it. And his credibility. Then, third, what else to have? Well, sounds, those two sounds. Okay? The gunshot sounds heard on the 6200 Hollywood Boulevard video could have been made by some kind of replica firearm. According to Detective Flores, he said, aside from a gun, I asked him, what else could make those sounds? An operable gun, I should say. And then he said, the sound I heard off the camera, I mean a firearm, some kind of replica firearm. He also acknowledged that a replica firearm could also make that sound. A starter pistol could make that sound. That's Detective Flores. It's a case detective. Let that sink in for a moment, folks. Please. The prosecution's case detective told you the sound that they rely on to prove that Rocky had an operable firearm that night. Beyond a reasonable doubt, could have been made by a non-operable product.
I definitely think that opens the door for reasonable doubt. If the detective is going out there and saying, yeah, from this camera footage, that definitely could have been a starter pistol. And Jacqueline was also talking about how the judge having that little outburst that Lewin isn't going to fare well. I agree. That was quite the outburst. I mean, he had a little bit of an episode.
That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's all you need right there. In other words, the videos in and of themselves don't prove that what Rocky had was an operable firearm. Beyond reasonable doubt. The case detective could use that. What else does the prosecution have to rely on? Relly's knuckle scrapes. But even they don't believe that's a gunshot wound. What they said in their opening statement about Relly's knuckle scrapes. Perhaps they were bullet graze, perhaps they were not. Well, perhaps they were not. That's what they want you to accept as proof beyond reasonable doubt. Perhaps they were not. What else did they say in their opening about those scrapes? Whether the victim or not the victim in this case was actually shot or injured by this will not be something that you will have to decide at the end of this case. They told you in opening statements. Really? Says who? Says who? They told you that because they themselves don't believe. Those
That's a
knuckle
improper
scrapes.
argument, State. I've already read the jury instructions to you. And one of those jury instructions lists the elements of what assault with a semi-automatic.
Here it goes.
Each of those elements have to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. What those elements are, that is the law in California. It's to what an assault with a semi-automatic pistol is.
One of the objections actually to like said by the prosecution wants you to.
That part's over.
But anyway, regarding the law, this is not about an element of the law, ladies and gentlemen. It's about the credibility of the only witness in this case was
I
prosecuted.
should see if I could pull up that statute of what
About the credibility.
defines assault with a
You
deadly
have
weapon
to,
in this
so
case.
whether it was a bullet shot or not, or a scrape from the floor, it does matter. It does matter. Of course, they don't want you to consider that. Because first, whether Relly was truthful about his injury goes to his credibility. Credibility, not about the elements of the law. It goes to his credibility, whether he's truthful about the nature of the injuries. And second, whether or not Relly was actually injured by a bullet is something important to consider in deciding whether Rocky had an operable firearm or a prop gun. Those are the two reasons I just brought that up to you. Those are the two reasons. So I disagree with you. You do have to consider whether he was hit by a bullet or not, because he said he was. At first, anyway. Because obviously a prop gun can't cause that injury. So was that a gunshot wound? Of course not. Of course that wasn't a gunshot wound. Even Relly couldn't tell you those scrapes were definitely from a bullet. At least at trial, he couldn't tell you. With this testimony when discussing whether he was grazed by a bullet. I guess whatever is left from the bullet or the floor or whatever, I don't know. I can't see. Okay. So it's either what was left from the bullet or the floor. Well, I guess it could have been the floor. I don't know. I can't see. It's not what he said in his lawsuit. Lawsuit, he said the shot. And he wants $30 million because he was shot. Now it's maybe it was the floor. I mean, does the truth mean anything to him? Does an oath mean anything at all? He really doesn't believe what he said to you at the beginning. I can say whatever I want, do whatever I want. That's that. And that's what they want you to accept as truth beyond a reasonable doubt. Relly said it could have been the floor. Of course it was the floor. When he was punching Gills, of course it was the floor. It's on his left hand. Relly said he was the left hand. But regardless, there's no bullet in the world that could have done that. I mean, think about it. It scrapes the top of one knuckle, does a bit of a dive to the second knuckle, does a real deep dive to that third knuckle, and then scoots along. And that would be one heck of a magic bullet to do that. Just looking at those knuckle scrapes, no one has to be an expert in anything. No, they are not from a bullet. Come on, for a second, yeah. $30 million.
I'm gonna pause it right
No one
here.
realized.
For if anyone hasn't seen it, these are the injuries that we're talking about in this case. I mean, that's why a lot of people argue that this charge isn't equivalent to the injuries from this alleged crime. I mean, that's it. Those are the scrapes. I mean, those could have came from anything, really. But let's see what the defense attorney has to say about them.
That's been range. He accepts a bullet wound. That's what he said, raised by bullet. Now he said, or the floor. Or the floor. I mean, he still brought a lawsuit against Rocky, claiming he required necessary medical attention from that bullet wound. He said. Ridiculous as that. And it's, by the way, it's the same knuckles you saw in his Boomerang Instagram video we posted on his manicured hands, which I think we showed to the jury. We have that? Go ahead. permanent injury that only $30 million would take care of. He first told the police that he treated scrapes by.
So let me go back to this little clip. Is this it? Yeah. But as some of you were saying, yeah, it's surprising that he was charged with felony assault with a deadly weapon, especially because in California, assault with a deadly weapon could also be a misdemeanor. So
That only $30 million would take care of. He first told the police that he treated scrapes by himself the day they occurred. That's what Officer Anderson testified to. But then days later, after traveling all the way back to New York cross country, he first went to a hospital in New York for medical treatment. Here he said, he doesn't trust anything that in Los Angeles. Why did he go to the hospital in New York? Not because he required medical treatment for those scrapes, but because a detective on November 9, 2021, told him during an interview that he needs to get treated because this is the type of case this is. This type of
getting serious.
her statement, Detective Manfred, was that he needs to go to get medical treatment because of the type of case that this is, correct? I believe that's correct. So a detective is telling him on November 9th, you need to go to a hospital, get treated because of the type of case that this is? I'm only telling someone to go to the hospital because they need medical.
That is the first time I've heard that. That's crazy. The detective telling him you need to go to the hospital because of the type of case this is. Because, I mean, it definitely would have helped them. Again, as my dad was saying, they had no medical professional saying that this wound did come from or could have came from a gun. And that's, yeah, he did not seek any medical care on his own. He didn't even file the police report until I think 2 or 3 days later.
Not the manufacturer of putting in a case. That is offensive, and it should be offensive to you because the type of cases that you go to the hospital. Make it look like you required a hospital visit. You know, it's bad enough that the prosecution main, I say only witness, manufactured evidence in this case. You don't need to manufacture a hospital visit. But he did just that with the shell casings also, manufactured evidence in this case. The only evidence they presented trying to establish that Rocky had an operable firearm. I'm going to take you through this. It's not going to be a stretch, and certainly it's multiple reasons of doubt in this. You heard a lot about those shell casings in this case. What you didn't hear was what the police found. You didn't hear that because that didn't happen. The body cam footage introduced at the very beginning of this case, first witness Officer Zizzo showed that the police responded to that scene at 10:32, less than 15 minutes after the incident. Officer Zizzo told you there were 7 police officers there. You saw them on the body cam video. And you saw, Officer Zizzo told you, 7 officers were searching the scene for any signs of a shooting with flashlights. Those big police searchlights. For how long? Detective Flores told you, about 20 minutes they were there for searching. That's 7 minutes, 7 officers times 20 minutes. That's 140 minutes of manpower right there. 7 officers for 20 minutes of trained police officers searching with flashlights for any signs of a shooting, including shell casings.
And Jacqueline, if you know, at any time during the trial, did the defense bring any doctors on? And if so, what did they say? I'm interested to know.
They found nothing, absolutely nothing. You heard the stipulation at the end. The stipulation means we agreed, the defense and the prosecution. At the end of the case, just before the judge's instructions the other day, it's Tuesday, right? It's the last day of Tuesday. The stipulation between us and the prosecution that a prop gun would also have ejected cartridges. But importantly, that stipulation makes clear that the shell casing recovered in this case did not come from a prop gun. That's for sure. And of course not. Lou explained that as well. That prop gun ejects blank cartridges. And bear this in mind, this is important. This part is important. The police came looking for evidence of a shooting. They were looking for those steel metal jackets, those shell casings. There was zero evidence on this record. Zero. I defy them to say, show anything.
So Spitfire said, why do we keep seeing these drawn out shams for black rappers? I think there's definitely a stigma around black rappers. And who's to say that if this was a white guy, the prosecution would have even brought this up?
On this record whatsoever regarding what those blank cartridges look like or how they were ejected from the prop gun. There is zero.
That's the improper argument. It misstates the evidence in the case.
Oh, it does not?
Just, I don't recall every word that has been stated by every witness during the entire trial. So I don't know if it misstates the evidence or not. If this is something that's important to you, then you can ask that the court reporter read it back. All right?
I'm just stating the evidence. They get to speak last. I asked him, show the evidence of what the casing from a prop gun looks like. Show the evidence of that to you. I don't want him to state the evidence. So there, I lay that challenge down. Show the evidence. I don't want to say, show it. There's no evidence whatsoever regarding what blank cartridges look like or how they would have ejected from a prop gun. No evidence of what they would look like, okay? There's no evidence regarding what material those blank cartridges would have been made of. You heard about paper and plastic from always, from Lou Levin. Paper and plastic, or how far or in what direction they would have been ejected. There's no evidence of that at all from the prop gun. Or whether they would have still been intact or not from a prop gun. You heard no evidence of that. In other words, there's been no evidence whether the blank cartridge from Rocky's prop gun would have been observable to the police as the shiny metallic shell casing from a real firearm. No evidence of that. And they had plenty of opportunity. They had a ballistics expert in here. He could have told you, oh no, blank cartridge shell casing look exactly like 9mm shell casings. They're steel. They could have done that. They didn't ask one question about that. They didn't ask Detective Flores one question about that. They asked our witness, Lou Levin, about it. Who's not an expert, but he knows enough. He gave an answer. So yes, they do eject. Talk about paper, bullets in the front. Describe what the casings look like at all. Or how, if they would have split or not split. Or were they shiny metal things that, like those 9mm shell casings? In any event, police found nothing. No evidence of a shooting whatsoever. No bullet holes, no blood, no damage to any one of those cars, which would have almost been impossible. No damage to any one of those cars we're parking on right there. And of course, no shell casings. This bears emphasis. The police found no shell casings whatsoever in 140 minutes worth of combined searching with searchlights. But really,
I think that's reasonable doubt right there. I mean, if we're putting all of our trust into the police and the prosecution, and the police is searching for 140 minutes and they're not finding a single shell casing, but then ASAP Relly is apparently going out there and finding them in the mystical ways that he did, I don't know.
I want you to believe he found it by himself with a cell phone flashlight in 2 to 3 minutes. An hour and a half. Flies in the face of common sense. Flies reason. And what does the prosecution do to try and get around that devastating fact in their case? They suggest that the police didn't know where to look. They actually asked, was it possible to use the shell casings? As you sit here, can you say to a certain, that's them questioning their witness. Can you say to a certainty that there was not a fired cartridge case in that street on Vista Del Mar? Answer, I can't say. I may have missed something. It's possible. Again, it's possible. We've already discussed jury selection, what you were being promised about, never getting that word here. They broke that promise on the very first witness. Possible is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt, but neither is their exercise trying to excuse the officers possibly looking in the wrong place. Possibly looking in the wrong place. They actually told you in their opening statement that the officers didn't know exactly where to look. They said that to you in their opening statement. They didn't know exactly where to look. But the one problem with that excuse is there's a video. There's a video and body cam footage that show the police in the location exactly where to look.
I think so far this is definitely more coherent and compelling than the state's.
Exactly where to look. Here's the side-by-side images. Okay, there's the, right, jump up here on. Does everyone see my blocking? Anyone? Okay, so here's the officer searching. Yeah. There's that orange wall I keep saying. This is where it will happen, right here, right here. And they're searching right there with these flashlights. Now there's this person who really first swore was him. He swore was him at 11:09, and then said it wasn't him, but it was him at first. But some news coming back here at 11:09, right across that orange wall where they're searching. Anyway, you also know this is where the tussling happened and the prop gun was shot. We have a shot of from the video where that was, or you have to do that.
Yes.
We'll do that later. But anyway, you remember the wall here, and we'll show it's near the corner of Vista Del Mar and Selma. And this is where, at one point, you saw 12 we run into. What happened right here? They're looking in the exact right spot. But we didn't know where to look. They just said that they went over. They had these videos. They're their videos. So regardless of how far blank cartridges may eject or what they may look like after being fired from a prop gun, one thing is certain. The police searched that exact same location that Relly said he was at on that video when he returned to the scene, or now he didn't return to the scene because now there's no evidence that he returned to the scene at all. So it's in trouble, it's just a sign of breaking something.
Definitely gives off a threatening vibe. I agree.
Anyway, it's the same exact location. I don't know why they said they didn't know what location it was. They were there. They got lucky because they hit the exact spot where Relly Rocking Hills could be seen at the moment of the shot. Police didn't find Relly shell casings. Impossible for them to miss that. 7 officers, 20 minutes, searchlights. Impossible. Those were not there 15 minutes after the start. They were not there. So what does the prosecution do? And Relly then, what does he do? They change their story and say now, maybe that wasn't actually Relly on video after all. They did it right here in front of you. That was all right in front of you in 2025. because part of his testimony, and I wasn't even involved yet, that was all Mr. Brzlovic, he said, yes, that's me, 1109 guy, that's me, yes. And Mr. Brzlovic, you sure?
That was
You
kind
sure?
of scary. Stare at us. Like-
Well, you know, weren't you in a black hoodie before and that looks like a white hoodie? Yeah, I probably went and changed. It was only had to impeach his own witness. And you'll see what happens. Once again, they say possibly, there was possibly additional. So the solution to that now, being him now, because he swore he came back. So I asked Detective Flores, is this guys? Oh, this is Brothers. Okay. Right, that's where he said, yeah, that's me, okay. I just said all that to you, but there it is in the transcript, just in case I thought I was picking that up at a whole cloth. I said, yeah, I'm sure. So, they said, just to you just now, shocked a little bit by this one, I was shocked by this one, that I made a mistake to you in my opening by saying that was Relly. I made a mistake to you. Relly swore on the oath it was him to you. But I made a mistake in my opening. He swore to you under oath it was him until he changed. Until they impeached their witness and got him to change his testimony. That, oh no, it wasn't me. In fact, that same person in that video was there between 11:09 and 11:11, which is about 2 minutes, the same length of time Relly said he had returned to the scene for. You also heard Detective Flores talk about that. And he told you that the time of 11:11, when the person in the video enters, is consistent when Relly told the police he returned to the scene. Of course, there were multiple problems with that story. First, he said that his girlfriend, Lydia Parker, was with him at the time he supposedly searched the area and recovered those shell casings. You know the video doesn't show you that, not that video. What other problem does the prosecution have with Relly's story about picking up shell casings? The photos, which Relly claims he took at the scene, were timestamped on his phone. And they showed the photos were actually taken at 11:40, between 11:45 and 11:48. That's more than a half hour after he said it was there. Half hour after he said it was there. So, make no mistake about it, the prosecution realized they had a problem with their evidence here, a big problem. So despite that fact, they took the position for years that that guy who came back 11:09 with Relly, returned to the scene in that video. And despite the fact that Relly told you at this trial he was sure it was him, the prosecution then impeached their own witness to get him to say, no, that wasn't me. And because Relly, let me see, hold on a second, I know you want to break. Maybe about 5 more, so one side.
No.
Okay.
2:45.
Yeah, can you let's do it now?
All right, folks, we'll take a break until 3 o'clock. Please be outside the courtroom doors at that time. Please don't discuss the case, and we'll see you about 15 minutes.
Did any catch what time they said they'd be back? Oh, I think I'm a little bit behind, so I should be able to.
Up here and able to argue that, and when I object,
Wait.
basically I'm told it's overruled. I mean,
For as long as he said, yes, that's me.
There was the
11:09, that's me.
Please don't discuss the case, and we'll see you about 15
All right.
the
There you go.
defendant said as follows: we're
Sorry
trying to
about
win
that.
at all costs. We only care about winning, not
Didn't I
just.
sustain that objection?
No, you did not until the 4th time I asked.
Oh,
you.
wow.
I objected 4 times.
Pretty combative with the judge.
We suborned perjury, stated 3 times. I objected each time. We could have called the worst of them all. We could have called Hodges. The court knows we found out about him that morning. The court made a finding that their discovery violation was not inadvertent. That means it was intentional. That means it was not accidental. They got up here and just told this jury that they didn't hear from this witness Haji, that we could have called them. The court knows. We have a hearing about it. It's been very clear. The court found that they were not honest in what they provided. They were not honest about when they actually turned the information over. And now he's up here and able to argue that. And when I object, basically I'm told it's overruled. I'm a judge. The problem is, the court made these findings. The court said we could not disparage lawyers. Let's be clear, anything that he had said was true. That we suborned perjury, that we don't care about justice. Those are reportable issues to the state bar. The court knows it's not true. I know you know it's not true, Your Honor. I assume he knows it's not true.
Is he
And
doing
then
this in
finally,
front of the jury?
he
Or are they
has
still on
repeatedly
recess?
misstated the standard of reasonable doubt. There is no standard whatsoever where you can say that each one of these are, quote, reasonable doubts. That is not a correct standard. The standard is looking at all the evidence in total. Did the people prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt? It is improper to say, if this fact is wrong, that is, quote, a reasonable doubt.
If
You
what
can
the
argue
defense was
that
saying
that
was
evidence
proper,
is
then I don't know what to
etc.
make of what the
So,
prosecution.
They're misstating the reasonable doubt, but more than that, Your Honor, they're disobeying the court's order about disparaging other lawyers. I object, the court lets it go. Then
No,
they
wait,
have-
wait a minute, I don't let it go. If I see or I think that Mr. Tacopina is disparaging you or you are disparaging him, I will put a stop to it.
Judge, I objected 4 times.
They
You
were
overruled all my objections. You finally sustained an objection. And when the court sustained the objection, I made clear that my issue was the second part, which had to do with, they were in essence disparaging.
Right.
both
I mean, the guy
I mean,
basically,
it's not a hard question.
so
They're
basically
saying
said
we suborned perjury
all of
3 times. Your Honor, that's
defense's
improper.
case
It's misconduct.
was
I
a
didn't
lie,
hear it.
so.
Your Honor, it's in the record.
Yeah.
3 different times he said, we suborned
This is
perjury.
crazy.
I don't know what to tell
Wait,
you.
hold on. Kathy, is that said?
Your Honor, we said.
All right.
said 3
If
different
it
times.
was said, then I should have stopped it, but I don't remember if it was said. You have made so far 9 objections, 6 were overruled.
Oh, well, there's
3
the
were
count.
sustained.
I remember
Oh,
someone asked
therefore,
what the count was on
Problem was,
objections.
I believe the first 5 I made were
9.
all overruled. The court, Your Honor, I've been in front of this court for 30 years. The court knows who I am. The court knows
Is
what
he having
my
a
ethics
pissing contest?
I'm not gonna sit here and tell the court that I'm objecting when he didn't say it. He said repeatedly, we suborned perjury. Your Honor, that statement in and of itself is severe what's going on.
All right, can you, in the break, can you look, can you see? If that was said,
Not messing around.
then I'll bring it to the attention of the jury. that
Your Honor,
That's an improper statement.
This is what I'm asking. Which fact gave to go after our witness all he wants? He can even misstate the evidence. What he cannot
There you
do
go.
is he cannot argue, A, why we put a witness up there. He cannot say that we suborned perjury. He cannot say that all we care about is
Been in this
winning.
court
He
30
cannot say
years.
that this is supposed to be the pursuit
mean,
of justice. And
the judge has
prosecution
probably
doesn't
been there
care about
longer.
that. He has said all of those things. He needs to stick to the evidence in the case. Either he doesn't know California law or doesn't care. And Your Honor, the court's already found, and the worst of them, and I want the court to instruct, he got out there and argued, why didn't you hear from Haji? The court knows, Your Honor, the court made a finding.
But you're repeating yourself.
Well, will the court do something about it? Will the court instruct that that was improper argument?
Can I respond?
No.
Okay.
Failure to call logical witnesses is permissible. You're gonna have a rebuttal argument. You can address it in your rebuttal argument.
Right.
Why you didn't call it.
Your Honor, this is all I'm asking, Your Honor. And I'll just last I'll say.
Save it for rebuttal.
The court knows
I mean-
what happened. We've had many hearings on this, et cetera. They knew the evidence, they presented it late, they had repeated orders to turn over statements. He got up and said, that's not the statement of the witness. 1054-3 is very clear. What they gave us is supposed to be the statement of the witness. And when he's standing up saying, well, that's not his statement, that was his statement, that's what they had to turn over. So, yeah, Your Honor,
This
I go
judge
back
kind of
and
turned a
I
new
can
leaf.
go and argue.
Earlier, he was
Well,
like,
both sides are arguing, but Your Honor,
What did he say?
there are rules for a reason, and we follow them. You have not found one instance. in this
Oh, it was
case,
about
not one,
him.
where the people did not comply with
Objected.
discovery, where the people did anything
I
unethical,
got screamed at.
already found, you used the words, it was not inadvertent. Non-inadvertent, Your Honor, means they lied and they intentionally did not give us.
I don't agree with that. It's not, it doesn't mean he lied.
Your Honor, non-inadvertent.
Don't argue with me. I don't think it means he lied. I just said it was not inadvertent. That's the extent of my finding. It was not inadvertent. I'm not going to debate with you whether they were or were not lying. I don't believe it was a lie. I want to give the court reporter a break, and we'll take a break until 3. What?
I'll give for, I have to just respond to a few things, but the direction here. One thing, I don't want to upset the school, so we can do it.
You're not going to upset me.
No, I'll be quick, I don't want to get further into it, I'm sorry. But there were some things that were said that were just wrong. First of all, they called our witnesses liars in their summation. So I'm calling their witnesses a liar, which he admitted to be, by the way. So, I mean, if our witnesses are lying, and I put them up there, obviously, they're saying we came up with this Tottenham story. So they're saying, I object, and they say I'm supporting her, that's what they're saying, number one. Number two, I can't say that they want to win at all costs. That's an argument. I can't say that. I don't think that's an improper argument. If you say it is, I won't say that again. But the other thing, Your Honor, I didn't argue that that wasn't a statement. I said it's not a sworn statement of 12B, and it's not a recorded statement. I said it's a summary. I'm accurate in describing it. It is a summary.
Right.
I'm just going
At
with what
that
I
point,
said.
lick your wounds and walk away.
You know,
I mean-
it disparaged our entire defense, mocked it.
Leave it up to
So
the
I'm
jury.
doing,
If
I'm
you already
doing a
said
little
it,
bit back.
what are you
I don't
going
think
to
I'm
do?
doing something.
You want to interrupt him? He didn't interrupt you?
About it?
You know, and the thing that he said though, first of all, I disagree. I
Sure.
think one fact
For sure.
of relevance would be a reasonable doubt. If the jury finds he's incredible on one thing of importance, like the shell casings, that's a reasonable doubt. If they so choose, it's up to them to decide what a reasonable doubt is. That could cause them to find not guilty. That's up to them. But it certainly is an argument that can be made. They can say, no, it's not a reasonable doubt. But I can make that.
Definitely take it
I know.
in a
But
fight.
the last thing. I
Look
think
at
is
the way that his
really
shoulders fill out that
Because
stiff.
the one thing.
I mean,
and
he
know
really
He said he has an issue.
Back there.
The one thing I never said was
Nonchalant.
they could have called Hodge.
Thing. Let me
I
bend
wouldn't do
over.
that. I didn't say that. They could check the record. What I said was they spoke to him that morning. They had a recording of Haji. That was brought out to Lululemon. I said, if Lululemon was inconsistent with Haji, would have heard the tape. I didn't say they could have called Haji. If I can show you where I said that, I would never have said that. We could have called Haji. It wasn't what to come. So I never said that. I just simply said what was on the record. Anyway.
But if it was said, Mr. Lewin can address it tomorrow. If it wasn't said,
It was.
then there's nothing to address. All right, we're off the record. I want to give Kathy a break. So can you find
All right, there they go. Let's see how far behind we are now. So it seems like they're still on break. All right. So what do we think so far? I mean, I think that little episode at the end was interesting. I mean, it definitely seems like I might turn this on mute for a little just because it's a little staticky. But I don't know. Lisa, they stopped the camera because they went off the record. And I don't know if that's unusual, but yeah, I thought it was going to be, Tracy said, I hope they would fight. I was expecting another repeat of those. If you guys remember the video that we played for the New Year's Eve special, when the I think it was the defendant like went over and mounted the judge's barracks and then like started literally fighting. That was insane. But yeah, that definitely was the most exciting part of the closing arguments. I think overall, my take on it was, I think aligns with a lot of yours, just that the defense gave a clearer, more concise closing as of now. But so I feel like maybe while we wait, we should pull up a little bit of ASAP Relly's testimony because I'm interested. So I'm gonna try to see if I can pull this up. Let's see. These are all like 1 minute clips. Let's see. All right, let's watch this little video. Mandy said typing like my father. That probably means that I'm like squinting and going like this, acting like an old person. I don't know. Let's see. All right, yeah, I'm gonna play you guys this video really quick if you're interested. It's a little bit of ASAP Relly's testimony. Here we go.
All right, Mr. Zloman, the floor is yours.
Does anyone know if I'm allowed to be playing Law and Crime on here? I don't know if that's a thing that I'm not allowed to do, but hopefully I don't get anyone in trouble.
Morning, or good afternoon. Do you have a man seated at the table in the tan jacket?
Yes,
What's his name?
Rocky. Rakim Mayer.
And do you know him by any other nicknames?
ASAP Rocky.
How did you first meet him?
In high school, we grew up together.
How old were you, do you think, when you first met him?
Probably like 17, 18.
When you first met him, was he a well-known famous rapper?
No.
I want to jump ahead to November 6th, 2021, the date of this incident. Do you remember approximately, or do you remember how old you were that day?
Excuse me?
How old were you on the day that this happened? Do you remember?
Sorry, Dad. So how do I cover the logo? I don't know. I didn't know that it would get me in trouble. But Mandy, if you can do it for me, that would be helpful. Is this me doing this right now? Is this me doing this or is this Mandy? Oh, okay. When the cat's away, the mice will play. I guess they will. So, does anyone know? Mandy, do you know how I cover this up? Or should I just take it down and we'll just... Well, you know what? We can watch it later because the trial's back anyway. So, we'll go back. I blame that on you guys for getting me in trouble. But Don't worry about it, Mandy. I'm switching back to the trial because they're back in session. All right. Almost. Here we go.
I asked
We are
Kathy
still
to
outside of the jury's presence.
to
That's right
check her notes, and she's able to do that. And, there is an indirect reference, it's not even clear, to Relly.
I don't actually blame you guys for getting me in trouble. It's okay. I take full blame.
And embracing perjury. So far, Kathy has not found the word suborn. Embracing perjury, I don't even know what that means, but from here on out, if any counsel wants to state that a witness committed perjury, that's fair game. But I do not want either directly or indirectly any counsel accusing the other one of suborning perjury, encouraging perjury, touching on perjury. I don't want the word counsel and perjury being used together.
Turning a blind eye?
What?
Turning a blind eye?
So, Dad, I don't know if you missed it, but there was a huge throwdown between the judge and Lewell. I don't know his name. Might have just watched that. But there was a huge showdown between the judge and the prosecution. It was crazy. It was like right after they had decided to go on recess, and it was pretty intense. So you should go back and watch that. Oh, it's just Lewis? I don't think that's right. Who win? Yeah, there you go. Who win?
Not only untrue,
Yeah, and stay away from that. They're only, they're winning at all costs.
Thanks, guys.
Well, it's fair comment on the evidence.
because Judge, they say about the evidence, they cannot say prosecution is all they care about is winning their case. They don't care about justice. That there's authority that says that.
Yeah, no, that's
The judge,
stay away from that.
you don't believe it's true.
No, I don't,
So
and I know it's not.
See,
All right, so stay away from what the prosecution's motives are. Talk about the witnesses, don't talk about the prosecution's motive. And when Mr. Lewin speaks, you're not to talk about the motives of Mr. Tacopino or Mr. Seals.
Joe, you're free, you're free to comment on, hey, they didn't call this witness, et cetera, just not that extra step.
All right,
Well, my explanation will be much shorter now.
what's that?
My explanation will be much shorter now, so.
I doubt it. All right. Let's bring it here.
It does not take a lot to make this crowd laugh.
Okay, we're gonna start at 9 o'clock. Folks, 9 a.m.
All right.
Sure is one.
I don't think Mom's going to appreciate that little comment there. For a second.
All right, folks, for scheduling, tomorrow, we're gonna start at 9. At 9:30. 9.
Right. think someone may have a problem.
So it kind of seems like they're done for the day.
Aside from me, aside from me.
Is that
So,
I don't have a problem with that, just, I'm not sure that I can make it by night.
is that what y'all are getting to? Why what?
I have to drop off my kids.
Oh.
So I come right after.
Can you do your best?
Yeah, of course.
All right, I'm gonna order everybody to be here at 9, but try to get here at 9, but if, you know, you're late, I understand, dropping off your kids is important. So, be here at 9-ish. Okay? We're back on the record, all parties and council members are present.
All right.
So if you left off when I was discussing with you all.
Well, I can't believe they even have to go another day. It's crazy. All right. Well, oh, I don't know, because you're outing her for calling you an effing moron. But I had a really great time with you guys. The time went by really quick. We've been together for like 4 hours total at this point. But I had a really good time with you guys, and you guys were very welcoming for my first live. And I appreciate you all. And I don't have a cool slogan made up to say goodbye. So I'll just say bye, y'all.